Welcome, everyone. This is our business meeting. It's November 19th. We're at the Southern Human Services Center, and my voice is a little hoarse. I don't normally sound like this, but I should be able to make it through the meeting, I think. I have a couple of things at our places, but I just want to know if there are any additions or changes to the agenda.
Proclamation, right?
Yeah, so we're adding additional item 4B for the proclamation designating November 21st, 2019 as Care to Share Day. You also have at your place the Driving is Exhausting presentation, as well as an update to 5A, which is a presentation that's in our agenda, but there is one slide that has been updated, and then there's two presentation packets for the Link Center. So that is our changes, and I just need a motion to accept that.
So moved. Second.
Commissioner Price, Commissioner Green, all those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Okay, thank you. I'm not going to read the public charge to you, but this is a room that we all respect each other. We respect you, you respect us, and we want you all to respect each other. So thank you for being here. We're going to start with our arts moment, and Tim Hope.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Rich, and it's good to see all the other commissioners here tonight. I have the pleasure tonight of introducing to you Sonia Drake. Sonia is a 15-year-old senior at Cedar Ridge High School, and she is going to read some of her creative writing that she does. She also has her creative writing teacher here in attendance as well. So I don't know if she's going to get graded on it or not, but maybe it's extra credit. So if you will, Sonia Drake.
Welcome, Sonia.
I don't know if you all have met many, 15-year-old seniors before, so that's a first. Yes.
Are you indeed a senior?
No, I'm a sophomore.
Oh, okay.
I wish. That would be an achievement. Yeah, I'm just here to read a little piece I wrote. I did end up having to cut it down a little, so yeah, I guess I'll just start. Okay. "Hey," Davy said softly, sitting next to her on the couch. Ruth looked up. Her face was bruised, and blood trickled out of her left nostril. There was a nasty cut under her chin, and her eyes still glowed with the anger Ruth never bothered to hide. She looked like a gladiator goddess in the body of an 11-year-old girl, and he knew he'd always be the warrior to her warrior, no matter how many times she rode into battle. He offered up a cool rag, and Ruth took it wordlessly and began to rub the blood off of her face. "He deserved it," Davy blurted finally. He's such a, he racked his brain for a fitting name, looked around to make sure the nurse's office was empty. "Stupid head. He's such a stupid head." Ruthie blinked. "Oh? What he said about us isn't true," Davy continued. "You know that, right?" "Mm-hmm," she agreed, turning her focus to her split knuckles, but Davy wasn't finished. "What I'm trying to say," he pressed on, "is you're my best friend in the entire world, and I don't care that you're a girl. I'll never, ever, ever go out with you, not in a million years. I promise." She was silent for a while. "I promise too," Ruth said finally, and when he looked over, he saw her smiling to herself. 15 years later, I guess that is. As they stroll down Telegraph Avenue, Davy wonders if Ruth can feel his pulse through their interlaced fingers. "We should hurry up," Ruth says. "They'll be waiting for us." And she's right, as always, but he won't admit it. "Oh, hush," he responds. Ruth steps on his foot, and he barks out a surprised laugh before abruptly stopping, guiltily looking up and down the road. It is a brightly lit night, and no clouds cover the full moon, and the streets are all but empty. And that's good, because he knows what others do to people like him and Ruthie. When they stop in front of the tiny white clapboard building that's become a second home, they slow to a stop. The building is almost forgettable, really, the kind of place that most people see and forget. But Davy and Ruth are not most people. The neon lighting casts strange shadows across Ruthie's deceptively soft and round face. She turns, peering down the darkened street, and nods. "Let's go," she whispers, and together they hurry up the front steps. Davy pushes the door open and they rush themselves inside, and inside the fireplace crackles warmly, and Michael and Barbara are waiting for them. Ruth lets go of his hand and floats towards Barb, sitting next to her and laying her head on her shoulder, and Davy hears Barb say, "Hi, sweetheart," to Ruthie, but he's barely paying attention because now Michael is grinning at him and he once again finds himself marveling at his incredible luck. Michael's eyes shine and Davy collapses beside him, allowing a small sigh of relief to escape his lips. "Hey," Michael whispers, taking his hand and squeezing it briefly, and Davy squeezes back. He always does. Mikey relaxes against him and turns back to the girls, and Barbara launches into a story about her cat. And Davy lets his eyes close, lets his head fall to Michael's shoulder. The sounds of banter fade into the background, and Davy thinks he might fall asleep. They are tired, the four of them. They are tired of lying, tired of pretending. But they are here, and they are together, and they are safe, and somehow that is enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
That makes sense.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you being here. Okay, we move on to our public comment. Do we have any public comment tonight? No public comment tonight. Wow, it's kind of a rare occasion. All right. Does anyone have anything to say? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, somebody does.
You need to come up to the microphone, please. And you have to give us your name.
My name is Miranda Bridgeford, and I just wanted to say that was a really great story, and I liked how it left off on a cliffhanger.
Great, thank you. Appreciate your comments. Okay, if anyone wants to speak about something on the printed agenda, please sign up in the back, and we will call you when that item number's up. We're going to move to announcements, petitions, comments by board members, and Commissioner Green, let's start with you. Before we do that, I just want to say Commissioner Dorson is not here tonight. He is out of town, and Commissioner McKee is on his way.
Sure, thank you. So last Thursday morning, I was among, Penny was there, you made an announcement. Who else was there? I'm talking about the voluntary agriculture breakfast, which was at Sly Grange. And since I'm a new commissioner, this is my first time to be at this breakfast to see the room full of farmers who have voluntarily placed their land in use as agriculture for 10 years or longer in some cases. And it was just remarkable to see them all together and to see the pictures and hear the stories of their farms. And this the keynote speaker was from the state, and she was talking about the benefits of agritourism, and it's something that I hope we can continue to pursue in Orange County. Then I have a petition based on our last work session where we had the fine presentation from the School of Social Work students bringing forth some responses to a policy idea about housing and transit. I would like to petition the staff for the housing work group to be convened or reconvened to take those ideas and just kick them around a little bit and see how viable they think some of them are for us to consider as policy implementations.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Markopoulos.
So I meant to bring this up earlier, and time kind of slipped away, but a little bit of housekeeping in regard to the terms of the Go Triangle board members.
Right.
The Go Triangle has 4-year terms, and I think we're the only member organization that has our annual appointment, and we stick to that. But what's happening now is the term that Barry Jacobs was filling, that I then filled about 1.5 years ago, ends on November 30th. So just to keep, our T's crossed and I's dotted, I would suggest that we extend my appointment till whenever. I mean, it doesn't matter, right? If we just extend it just the same way that I took over Barry's spot, it didn't take any special legal finagling to do that.
Right.
At any time you can change it, just so that from between 11:30, between November 30th and the meeting in December when we choose our boards, that I am representing Orange County.
Right, and we've done that before, so we don't need to do anything special. I don't know if we need to send a letter to Go Triangle to extend that. Is that what needs to happen, John?
I'm not sure. I think the clerk's office handled that, so.
Okay. I'll work with the
make a
clerk's
motion?
office on
I
that.
mean, it wouldn't hurt just
How about if we made a motion?
We can do that as well.
to be on the safe side in case
We're
there's any
choosing our boards
questions.
on December 10th, but if everybody's okay with that. Okay, so we have a motion by James Etta. Any second? Second. By Commissioner Price. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
All right.
So that'll be until December 10th when we choose our boards again. Okay, thank you.
So I wanted to comment on what great minutes we got from the collaborative meetings between the governments and us and the school board, that the chair and mayor attended, and chairs of the school board, and chair and vice chair of this board, and wonder how aware the public is about these meetings and how accessible these reports are, the minutes, because they're really informative. And I'd just like to make sure that people know about it and they can find it.
Yeah, well, it was something that the manager suggested, is that we put it in the agenda as information items. So they are posted on the website. If we wanted to direct people to the website, we can do that. Otherwise, I'm not quite sure how folks would even know that we had those meetings, unless we did our job and point them to that website. Is that correct, Ms. Manager?
We could put those minutes on the front page of the website and post them and have it as in the new section. We could just show that we had these meetings.
That'd be good, yeah. There's a lot of great conversations, and I mean, the minutes were really good,
Thorough.
actually, yeah.
Okay. Is that it?
Yep.
Commissioner Price?
So I also attended that ag breakfast, the voluntary ag district volunteers, and actually Annie Baggett is local. She has a lavender farm here in Orange County. But the point I wanted to make was that sometimes we forget that farmers are also stewards of the environment. We sometimes hear about, some of the things that they do with chemicals and whatnot on the farm, but I just wanted to make note that we do have farmers, and they do take care of the environment and our natural resources. Another point on an environmental issue is I had asked several months ago that we send a statement. I petitioned the board that we send a statement or something to UNC to find out about reducing their use of coal. And I don't think anything was done, and it's been brought to my attention. Also, Commissioner Markopoulos got an email along with myself about the use of coal. And I would just like staff to perhaps follow up on that and find out what is going on. There was supposed to be a reduction. And of course, leadership has changed at UNC, and if we could find out what the plan is. And I know some of the students are very much concerned with the use of coal. And then I was at a board meeting last night, and there was a group of students from UNC Chapel Hill. They were capstone students, and they gave a presentation on food insecurity in the Triangle. And I would like this board to hear their presentation if possible. Now, that does mean that for this group of students that we'd have to put on the agenda for December, probably December 10th, maybe work it in, because of course they may be graduating or going on and doing something else next semester. But I did speak with their professor, and there would be a different group of students coming in next year, so something that could be continued. But I was really impressed with their presentation about food insecurity and some of the details that they got about Orange County. And then finally, I just want to say thank you personally to the North Carolina Supreme Court for including Orange County on their tour of 26 counties in celebration of their 200 years. They had a session today at the Whitted Building in our quarters, and it was quite interesting. But I just wanted to thank them for choosing Orange County. That's it.
Commissioner Bedford?
I attended the DSS board meeting yesterday and informed you all that we weren't sure about Medicaid transformation, and then today it actually was announced that has been halted because of the lack of funding and the budget impasse at the state level. In the interim, our Cardinal Innovations is taking applications as they reorganize that group, and they are the LME MCO Managed Care Organization for mental health, behavioral health, and IDD for our county and 19 other counties. And if you would like to apply for a local Orange County Advisory Council or the 5 Central Region County Health Council, you can go to their website and find the application. It's all online, and the deadline is November 24th. And then it's interesting that you're talking about hunger because the Retreat Planning Committee has met, and one focus that will go in more in depth will be hunger. After we look at, Mark, help me, a systems level thinking, do I have the right words? And the speaker has been arranged, the facilitator and speaker. So we are moving ahead. And as I said, the worst case scenario is if you don't like it, I won't have to do it next year, the 3 of us. So we'll be all right. And I just want to wish everyone a safe and happy holiday as we approach Thanksgiving.
Great, thank you. I've got 3 things. I'd like to request for this board 2 proclamations for both folks that are retiring. One is Robert Dowling from the Community Home Trust, and the second one is Dot Cheeks from the Schlag Range. So we could prepare those proclamations and have them at our next meeting and call those folks up and see if they can be with us. There is also a petition that I want to ask this board to write a letter or work with the attorney to write a letter, and we were just made aware of this by our Durham friends just a couple of days ago, that there is a new executive order from the White House that counties, towns, states, cities, whatever we are, will not be able to allow refugees to resettle in our county unless we produce a letter that states that we are willing to have them settle here. And Durham has created that letter, and we've been asked to do one as well. And I don't know, John, do you want to add anything to that?
Well, just, I think you covered it. The executive order comes from the White House. It restricts where thoroughly vetted refugees can go, and you must take an affirmative step in sending this letter before they can come here. It used to be the case that the federal government would send them wherever they could house them, and this makes it a little more difficult because now if people, if a group of local politicians or state politicians don't want refugees, they don't have to do anything. They won't be sent there. But if you take this affirmative step, this will allow Orange County to resettle refugees.
To continue to resettle refugees.
Right, and I think this is a step in the right direction for us, specifically when we think about the Burmese folks that came here years ago. If we didn't have this letter in place, they would not have been able to resettle here.
Let's do it.
So if it's okay, I'll work with John and we can get a letter together and send it to the proper Commissioner Price?
Does this have any effect on churches and church groups that want to bring refugees here?
I only am aware of the effect on local governments. If the requirement is that local governments and state governments must approve this, must request that refugees be sent here. So my assumption is that if the state says no, that they wouldn't be able to, but I don't know that for sure.
Okay, and lastly, today we celebrated with Chapel Hill the new company in town called Well, which is a company that's going to bring about 400 jobs to Franklin Street. The governor was in town. We had a really nice celebration. Commissioner Green, Commissioner Markopoulos were there, as well as many others, including the university. And we're really excited to be partners with them. We're on a roll here in Orange County with economic development, and I just want to thank Steve and Amanda again. I know I thanked them earlier in the day, but it's real important to recognize them and the team of the Bonnie and Travis team as well, making sure that we're on top of it and bringing these companies here. So thank you so much. Okay, folks, let's move to 4 proclamations, resolutions, special presentations, and we're going to move to 4A, Driving is Exhausting campaign. The board will receive a short presentation to recognize members of the Phillips Middle School Green Team, including parent volunteer Mary Perry, who collaborated with other students in the district to launch a community education campaign called Driving is Exhausting. And as Todd's coming up to present this, I want to remind everyone that this started a while back with Commissioner Jacobs, where he wanted to post some signs, and Commissioner Markopoulos, you followed up with that. And, you know, we tried to do our best to get this going, and like typical adults, we couldn't do it on our own, so we needed the kids to help us. So Todd, take it away.
Good evening. We have a lot of smart, talented, hardworking kids in Orange County, and we have some with us tonight. As you said, they started a Driving is Exhausting campaign to try to encourage people when they're sitting in the carpool lines at the schools to turn their engines off and not reduce the amount of pollutants and get into the air. So that's enough of me talking. I'm going to bring up Mary Perry. She's the parent volunteer with the Green Team, and she's going to introduce a lot of kids who are going to come up and actually introduce themselves, I believe. Is that right?
Yes. Okay, great. Welcome, everyone. Come on up.
I'm not going to get in a straight line. So, hi. Thanks for having us. I would also like to recognize Kelli Fox and Lisa Clark, who are the 2 teachers from Phillips who stay after school after everything else that they do every Monday at the request of this crew, which was originally supposed to meet monthly, but they have so much to do that they just said we've got to meet every Monday. So they stay after every Monday, so we really love our teachers. I'm going to let them take it away and tell their name and the school they're with.
Hi, I'm Malcolm Main from Phillips Middle.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Rodriguez from East Chapel Hill High School.
I'm Owen Rice from Carborough High School.
I'm Ben Perry from East Chapel Hill High School.
I'm Maliha Ward from East Chapel Hill High School.
I'm Annabelle Fox from Phillips Middle.
I'm Jordan Coulter from Phillips Middle.
I'm Jonas Coulter for Phillips Middle.
As you heard me before, my name is Miranda Bridgeford, and I go to Phillips Middle.
Kendra Schwartz from Phillips.
Lily Licata from Phillips Middle.
Garris McIntosh from Phillips Middle. Charlotte Fox from Estes Hills Elementary.
And this is the Driving is Exhausting campaign showing how idling. Okay, sorry. So I'm, again, Malcolm Main. Yeah. So this is the Driving is Exhausting campaign, and it's kind of highlighting how idling is costly both in terms of health and the environment and gets you nowhere because you're not even driving. And this is brought to you by the Phillips Middle School Green Team. These are some of our members that take action to help the environment. And so we know that the county commissioners work to get these signs, the turn off your engine, kids breathe here signs in our middle schools and high schools in car circles, but we know that these signs probably won't be enough for busy parents who want to leave the AC on in their car, and we wanted to take some extra steps.
We wanted to help drivers understand the impacts of idling, so we made yard signs for CHCCS car circles, pointing drivers to websites to help them understand. The website helps people learn car exhaust is harmful to our health and is released right at the level where kids breathe. And it contains pollutants that produce greenhouse gases contributing to climate change. We have pictures of the signs that we were put up.
And so once our website was up and running, we organized a group of high school students to get together and to plant these signs all around car circles around the district. And so this website asks its visitors to take a pledge And this pledge asks to do a lot of things. It asks to take different forms of transportation so that you're not using emissions with your car. It asks you to turn off your car when you're idling, especially for more than 10 seconds, because it really has a profound effect on the environment. And it also asks them to spread the awareness, to talk to leaders at your school, and just to create more awareness of this program.
We even have idle-free schools toolkits that students can download to get started that we borrowed from the EPA.
So far, the response from the rest of the community has been really positive. We've done interviews and given quotes to the CHUCS website, WOCHL, WRAL, the Daily Tar Heel, and the Carolina Connection. I think the best part of it is that parents are starting to recognize our signs and take action as well. We have started to notice that less parents, while waiting in car circles, are idling less and actually turning off their cars. From all of us at the Driving is Exhausting campaign, we would like to thank the county commissioners for sparking this idea with their original signs. And we'd also like to thank Tamara Rice and Melissa Hudgens for creating our logo and making our website look so professional. Finally, we'd like to ask everyone in the county to help spread the word that transportation is the #1 source of emissions for climate change due to the release of greenhouse gases, and that exhaust from cars is harmful to our health as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good. Questions for the green team? All right, comments? Commissioner Markopoulos.
Well, I just want to thank you for doing this. This is amazing. And I listened to some of your media events and your interviews on TV and radio, and you did a great job with that as well. And I know it spread the message beyond just this community. So I expect that we'll see ripple effects from your work, and you're really local heroes for doing this. And thanks.
Thank you.
Commissioner Price? Vice.
I also want to thank you. This is an excellent presentation and a very important issue, and I'm glad you took it to task. And maybe it will spread to other things like drive-ins and people sitting and waiting in lines there. But kudos to all of you.
That's a good question. And our green team still doing waste recycling at the cafeterias and making sure that food's getting diverted from the landfill that way? That's exciting, too, that you're adding things to education and information for our community. Thank you.
Can we get the green team to come up and stand behind us for a photo? Just be careful coming up because we have our stuff all thrown on the floor here.
There are steps. Trip yet.
See all the snacks.
Yeah, comprehensive.
Yeah, you can grab some chocolate on the way now.
Yeah, come on. Get some good
Bill can come
pictures.
closer.
Yeah, let's get some.
We don't bite. They know we don't bite.
Which camera do I
I know.
Just keep smiling.
Anyway, go back on board.
Uh-oh, we got another one coming down, approaching on the left. That was awesome. I know you're really excited to stay for the rest of our meeting, but you don't really have to if you don't want to.
Go do your homework.
Yeah, seriously.
No, this was homework.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. We're going to help spread that word around as well. So we'll see if we can get a link up on our website to your website. Thank you. Okay. Enjoy. All right, folks, let's move on to 4B. And this is a proclamation that OWASA asked us, Commissioner Markopoulos and I meet with our OWASA members, and we somehow we missed this email that came to us in October. And we just want to apologize so much.
That's okay.
And that's why it's like sort of last minute. But I'm going to ask Commissioner Markopoulos to read the proclamation. But if you have anything to say first, that would be great.
I just want to thank you all very much for considering Care to Share Day, because we realize that if we can help raise more funds, we can help more of the community members who may be experiencing situations where they can't pay their water and sewer bill. And the IFC partnered with us to make this possible, and we really, really appreciate, along with that, everyone in the community support that we've received so far as well. Thank you.
Great. I know it's hard to follow up a bunch of kids, but you're doing great. Commissioner Markopoulos is going to read the proclamation, and then we'll be happy to send it over to home to Owasso with you.
This is the Orange County Board of Commissioners proclamation on Care to Share Day. Whereas over 21% of households in Chapel Hill and Carver are estimated to have incomes below $25,000, and whereas it is critical to public health and the vitality of our community for Orange Water and Sewer Authority to charge the true cost of service required to invest in our infrastructure, and Owasso is prohibited by law from providing discounted rates based on income. And whereas at 4,000 gallons of use per month, the average Owasso water and sewer bill requires over 10 hours of work at minimum wage before taxes. And whereas the Interfaith Council for Social Services has partnered with Owasso since 1997 to provide water and sewer bill assistance to members of our community through the Care to Share program. And whereas the Care to Share program has helped over 200 households every year to pay their bill and maintain vital water services. And whereas last year, funds raised through on-bill contributions fell short of covering utility assistance provided by the Interfaith Council. And whereas it is easy for Owasso customers to contribute on their monthly water and sewer bill or through a one-time gift to the Care to Share program. And whereas during the month of November, we celebrate thankfulness for what we have. Now therefore be it resolved that we, the Orange County Board of Commissioners, do hereby proclaim November 21st, 2019 as Care to Share Day in Orange County in conjunction with the Orange Water and Sewer Authority.
And we need a motion, please.
So moved.
Commissioner Price.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Green. All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Okay, thank you. Do you want to pass that around? Go get your picture taken.
There we go.
Thank you for coming, Ms. Battle. We appreciate it. Thank you, Commissioner Markopoulos. We're going to move on to our public hearing now, and this is 5A. And you have the revised presentation at your places. And this is a public hearing regarding an economic development recruitment incentive for Piedmont Metalworks, LLC. The board will receive proposal information and hold a public hearing on the assurance of the performance-based economic development incentive by the county to a private company, and consider voting to approve the proposed 5-year performance-based incentive agreement with clawback provisions for the recruitment of Piedmont Metalworks, LLC, manufacturing facility to Orange County, North Carolina, and authorize the chair to sign. Welcome, Steve, and congratulations on a great day today.
Thank you very much. I'm Steve Brantley, Director of Orange County Economic Development, and Commissioners, thank you for considering this project for this evening. I'm going to give a brief PowerPoint just to present the visual aid of the project, describe the company, the incentive, and then there are two guests here who would be able to answer questions and talk about their company, Mr. Richie Richmond, who is the owner of the company and the CEO, not only of the Piedmont Metalworks company, but also the Orange County-based Forma Fab Metals, and also Ron Hamilton, who is the president of Piedmont Metalworks, the subject company. So let me pull up the PowerPoint. So what we're going to discuss and ask you to consider is a inducement agreement for this project to come to Orange County. We will talk about the investment, which is $4.15 million over 5 years. The jobs that they will create, 42 jobs, of which 30 would be new and 12 would be existing. These jobs would pay an average salary of $41,000 $236 plus benefits, healthcare, and 401k. That equals almost $20 an hour, so well above the living wage. The facility would be built in up to 3 phases, totaling 40,000 square feet, and would be co-located adjacent to the affiliated Forma Fab Metals. This company contacted us in the spring and said that it was going to move and was looking at our location, but also mentioned several buildings and sites which offer some financial cost advantages in Alamance County. And from that point, we began to talk with them, and the commissioners met in closed session on September 3rd for the first discussion about this company. Let me briefly describe what is Piedmont Metalworks. It's based in Durham at 1551 Cooper Street. They have 12 employees at present, but those 12 employees have over 100 years of metalworking skills to their credit. They have manufacturing skills such as plasma cutting, welding, design, CAD engineering, powder coating, and silk screening. They've had customers, and I'll show you photographs of some of their products. Their customers include the Raleigh-Durham Airport, where they've designed ticket counters and check-in counters, the North Carolina Museums of Art and Natural History in Raleigh, UNC Chapel Hill. They've even made military vehicles, one that I'll show you a photograph for the United States Marine Corps. And they have a long list of products that they have made. Now, I mentioned the $4.15 million. This is an illustration of how they would invest that in both real and personal property over each of the next 5 years, again, totaling $4.15 million. The construction schedule ramping up to a total of 40,000 square feet, and the spread of the jobs to 42 jobs total. So I described Piedmont Metalworks. Let me also describe Forma Fab Metals. If you remember, in Orange County, we had an industrial site called Hancor, located near the Buckhorn Road exit in US 70. There, they made, I think it was a plastic pipe. Company closed, was for sale, and was purchased by Mr. Richie Richmond, who was already operating in Orange County nearby in the Cheeks district, and he has a facility at 6600 East Washington Street. With the purchase of the Hancor building, he expanded to include the second location, and so today he operates, or Forma Fab Metals operates, 2 facilities totaling 75,000 square feet. They have approximately 68 employees, and their current Orange County property tax valuation in Orange County at present is $2.9 million, and I think they have been in operation for 24 years so far here. And they are also, Forma Fab is a custom sheet metal fabrication maker with products that include enclosures, cabinets, metal housings, panels, brackets, and bus bars. And our guest tonight could differentiate what the 2 operations do. Here are photographs of what Piedmont Metalworks has made. On the top left, you see, I'm not sure if you'd call it an escape ladder, safety ladder that you would see on the outside of buildings, but all of the cutting and the welding, the bending of metal, the painting of that would be various skills that they provide. Top right is a photo inside the Raleigh-Durham Airport, and there you see stainless steel panels that have been fabricated and installed. And there's a lot of customer work with Raleigh-Durham Airport. The bottom left photograph is a metal recycling bin, as I understand it. The bottom center is a rail car sink that I guess you would find on Amtrak or so forth. I know that when I toured the company, I saw the manufacture of metal beds for, I think it was prison hospitals or prisons there. And then the beige vehicle to the to the right is a U.S. Marine Corps vehicle that I think pulls dirigibles or balloons, and they are tethered to this device here. So those are examples of what the company makes and the skills that it takes to pull all of that together. This map briefly shows the location of Forma Fab Metals in Orange County. The red at the top of the map, just to the right of their site, would be the Buckhorn Road exit, as we all know where that location is. And there is a sufficient land on the Forma Fab Metals property to enable the attraction of the 40,000 square foot Piedmont Metalworks building. Here is a closer view, aerial view of the existing Orange County facility. The building is along the railroad tracks at the bottom of the picture, and then US 70s at the top of the picture. This facility is outside the city of Mebane's city limits. There is no Mebane involvement at the moment, other than perhaps utilities, perhaps water. Now, as for our incentive, let me outline that for you. The Orange County incentive of $86,261 was calculated in the manner that we have always used, with a policy that the Orange County Board of Commissioners has approved for the Medline project, for ABB, for Morinaga. It's the same methodology, the same formula, same verification of employment by the county on an annual basis, the same verification of property tax by Orange County and the tax office in that regard. We're proposing an $86,261 incentive that would be paid over 5 years. That would be a grant of 75% of the project's expected new property tax value, netting the county 25% in the first 5 years. It's performance-based, meaning the jobs must be created and the investment must be made before any grant payment would be made by the county. It is revenue positive in all years. And again, the county would be verifying the performance measures. If you see at the bottom of the screen, the net revenues to Orange County would be almost $29,000 in the first 5 years, but $188,000 over the first 10 years. So the incentive is in the first 5 years, and then there's no incentive in the second 5 years. This chart just shows the breakdown of the gross property taxes to the county, minus the incentive payments in red, and then the net payment to the county. And we have both a 5-year and a 10-year forecast of the net revenues to Orange County. This final chart is the Excel spreadsheet that we use. The manager's office uses it. It factors in a roughly a 10% depreciation method, and it tries to give a scientific, empirical analysis of a project's value from a property tax standpoint. Other incentive benefits is that Piedmont Metalworks represents supporting mid-sized manufacturing and mid-sized business. I think it's larger than what we would call a small business, but we are supporting manufacturing at that level. It would bring additional metal fabrication skills and jobs to Orange County, 30 net new jobs. These are skills that can be an additional training program at Durham Technical Community College, which is already renowned for welding and metal fabrication technology in the Durham office. And so this creates one more opportunity for Durham Tech, hopefully in Orange County, to do that. As I mentioned, the salaries are almost $20 an hour with benefits. And then there's a low impact on the environment. The company does not is a low water sewer user. The Orange County Department of Planning and Inspections would be involved in all phases of site plan review, setback requirements, and so forth to manage that company's growth. That is the extent of the PowerPoint slides, and now I would invite our guests to come and make comments.
Good evening.
Good evening. How's everybody tonight?
Good.
Good.
Are you Richie Richmond?
I'm Richie Richmond.
Did a woman named Penny Rich make fun of Richie
You know,
Richmond?
it's funny, ironic, my wife is named Penny.
Oh. Okay, I guess I can't make fun then. All right.
Yeah, exactly. So, we appreciate the opportunity to come in front of you tonight. You know, we're not going to have 400 jobs like you announced earlier, but, you know, we're looking at about 42 jobs over the next 10 years, 5 years. And we're even looking out further than that. It's a lot of opportunity for our business, and so we're just looking for a good place to expand. We have a facility in Durham now, and we're out of room, so we're needing a place to expand. And I run Forma Fab Metals, which is right next door to the proposed property, and it would certainly be convenient for us, you know, to run the companies together like that. But we have some other sites that we're looking at, you know, so we're trying to make the best financial decision we can. So we appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. 42 jobs are important.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
nothing
absolutely.
to sneeze about. I mean, especially in a trade like this where we're, you know, matching up with Durham Tech. So it's a great opportunity for us and for you. So we appreciate it.
Yeah, and we work with Durham Tech also at
Great.
Forma Fab, so they do great things for us, and we appreciate their support too.
Great. Questions for Mr. Richmond? Okay, so we're going to open up the public hearing.
Okay.
And you can sit through that.
Thank you.
So I need a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we have no one to speak at the public hearing, so I need a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. So the manager is recommending that we receive the proposal to consider the assurance of incentives to a private company for the recruitment and expansion of Piedmont Metalworks manufacturing facility to Orange County, and to approve the performance-based economic development incentive agreement between Orange County and the company Piedmont Metalworks LLC, subject to final review by the county attorney, and authorize the chair to sign the agreement on behalf of the county. We need a motion to approve that. By Commissioner McKee,
Second.
Commissioner Price, all those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Okay, that passes. Thank you so much. We
Thank
appreciate you
you.
being here. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to 6A, which is our regular agenda. And Travis is making his way up to the podium, and this is the Link Government Services Building Remediation Project. The board will discuss options to provide direction to staff on the next steps for the Link Government Service Center Remediation Project. Travis.
Thank you, Chair Rich. So tonight I'll just go through a brief history of where we've been with this project, and then invite the architect who's been working with us, Andy Crawford Easterday from Boomerang Design, to discuss the findings from some additional investigations we've done over the past several weeks. So starting back in about a year ago, there were water intrusions manifesting themselves in the ceiling of the Link building. Upon investigation, there was toxic mold found in the plenum space, so this is above the drop ceiling. We did air quality tests and determined there was no exposure in the air, so at that point, our strategy was to contain everything that we could into the plenum space and maintain air quality using air scrubbers and other technology. We evaluated the entire building, identified 8 office areas at that time, again, back in January, that had some form of growth in the building. At that point, we also engaged industrial hygienist and an occupational health physician to advise us on sort of the employee components of what should be done and how we should be testing the air and other steps we needed to take to ensure the health of employees in the facility. Based on their involvement and recommendations, air scrubbers were installed. We started doing weekly air quality testing. That all remained negative, so everything remained contained in the plenum space of the building, and then engaged an architect to help us prepare the remediation project specifications. So that started really in the spring and summer of 2019. At that point, we also brought in one additional architectural firm to investigate what may be going on with the building envelope. At that point, that person told us that it could be condensation in the plenum, that there could be some just hot air meeting cold air, which later we found because of changing conditions that was not the case. And through the summer of 2019, of course, we had very little precipitation of any kind. We put this out to bid. Bids were received. The original remediation project bids were received in September of 2019. At that point, we had an apparent low bidder, and we requested additional information in order to fully evaluate the bids that were submitted. Because that information wasn't required in the bid documents, that the apparent low bidder declined to share that with the county, and so that was put in the second set of bid specifications that was then received in October. At that point, I think we had a discussion at the board level about the requirement to create some sort of business alignment between a general contractor and the remediation contractor. That had not been formally done. And so the board at that time chose to reject all of the bids and again put it out for bid. In late October, that's when we received a moderate amount of rain, and that's when we also got our first mass water intrusion into the lower level of the facility. So the area where the public HR used to be and where the public defender was, that received a pretty good dousing. At that point, there was an odor, and we started to think that there was something else perhaps going on. And the air test at that time also revealed that there were contaminants that were being revealed that still weren't dangerous, still weren't toxic, but they were indicative of deteriorating air quality. So at that point, we ordered some additional investigation. We did wall moisture tests throughout the building, did an infrared test, and then asked Boomerang Design to conduct a root cause analysis where they would actually cut into the walls to see what was going on in the building cavity. So just to illustrate some of the areas that were a bit moist, so this is a dry wall moisture test. 6 to 8% is the standard, something under 10. And here you'll see in the second floor of that county manager's conference room, those wall moisture tests were coming back at 15 to 20 to up to 35%. On the second floor finance corridor, that's where Gary and his staff are, those were coming back at 13 to 18%. Down on the clerk's corridor, again, that was in the 13 to 15% range. And then what was interesting was this is the area of the building where we did the waterproofing project in must have been 2018. You'll remember the big trench that was in front of the Link building for a period of time. So these moisture tests came back in the right range. So the waterproofing project that was conducted in that particular side of the building, that quarter of the building, was successful in preventing future moisture intrusions. This is the ground floor then. Things start to get a little higher once we go down a level, so up to 40% in the former human resources space, and then 20-30% in the county attorney offices. Infrared testing revealed much of the same. So in this picture, you'll see on the right-hand side the infrared image, on the right-hand side the visible light image. So this is actually John's old office, and you can see in the corner when we refer to the investigative demolition cuts, that's what they did to the wall, that they actually cut into the wall, and Angie and her team were able to look into the wall cavity and see what was going on there. So in general, you'll see in these outlined areas, this is a moisture, so it measures moisture and air infiltration by detecting temperature variations where one wouldn't expect there to be temperature variations. So the temperature is on the right-hand axis there. So you can see here sort of discolorate this dark blue along the floorboards and up the walls, indicating some moisture infiltration. Again, in the public defender conference room, you'll see on the top left-hand side that same blue-purple color indicating a moisture problem. In the ground floor public defender offices, this is a corner section where you'll notice also some blue areas indicating a moisture problem. We also did a couple exterior views of the building. So this is the facing the building from Cameron Street, where the analyst said that this was indicative of a roof leak on that concrete edge, and you can see, really all around the building, that concrete edge really has some discoloration to it as you go around the building, except for the areas where we did the waterproofing last year. This is also just an exterior view where you can see evidence of a roof leak just above that concrete ledge. And then here, this is on the ground floor, there's a grading issue that's allowing water to basically flow back into the wall. So we invited Angie and her team to further look into the building cavity on October 18th, and we received her report on October 28th, which identified a series of these breaches in continuous sheathing, which she'll talk about in just a moment, and then also talk to us about what additional project scope may need to be added to appropriately seal and waterproof the building. So with that, I'll present Angie Crawford Easterday with Boomerang Design.
Welcome, Angie.
I have a question for
Yeah,
Travis.
please.
Travis,
Yes.
before you leave, we did the, as you mentioned, when we sealed the bottom part,
Yep.
the trench and all that. Was there any, did anyone even bother to look or to say, hey, you've got issues up above?
The scope of that project was confined to that, because that's where, so there was some visible water infiltration that was coming out through that wall at the time. So the scope of that project was just confined to that section of the facility.
Yeah, I know the work was, but I just thought, if you had an expert there, did they even look or even suggest that there may be other issues?
At that point, no.
Okay.
Thank you. My name is Angie Crawford Easterday, and I am a principal with Boomerang Design, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. Please use me as a resource, ask questions. This is a very complex issue going on at the building, and I wanted to walk you through a few of the things that we have learned over time with the facility and what we're seeing today with the degradation that's happened since October in the building. So briefly, just to go through a few things, I'm going to talk as quickly or as much time as you need, but I want to talk about the existing building. I want to talk about what we were doing in the original bid scope of work that was bid twice, and some items that the county had asked us to add to that original scope of work. So you understand what we were already doing to the building, then the recent issues that happened in October and what our new additional recommendations happen to be, and then weighing a cost of continuing with remediation. What does that mean versus what would it be if you were to build new? So in looking at the existing building, and for those who are familiar with this type of construction, just bear with me. For those who are not, I want to make sure everybody understands. So this building has essentially two types of construction of its walls. It has on the lower level where you have already done some remediation with the waterproofing work. It is essentially a CMU block wall with brick on top of it. So we call that a masonry wall. Once you get above grade, it is essentially a masonry veneer wall. So we've got a metal stud, we've got an airspace, and we've got masonry. And in masonry veneer wall construction, we know those walls are always going to take on water. When the water comes into that cavity, it is to go down a drainage plane and exit out at the bottom of a flashing, a controlled way that we get water out of the building. So when we were brought on board to start looking at the building and the existing construction, I'm going to breeze through this real quick. We looked at what did we see in the original design documents that were causes of concern. We looked at what could we investigate, given the fact that it was a very sensitive facility, an occupied facility that we did not want to start tearing into the building and releasing toxic chemicals or toxic molds into the building where people were. And so what could we do within the limits of what we were able to? So this on your left is just a typical wall section. I'm just going to walk you through this very quickly. So you have a cast stone cap at the top. About midway, you have a big cast banding. And then between the floors, the second floor and the first floor, you have another cast banding. And what happens with cast banding is you're reliant upon a sealant joint. And sealant joints over time, they have to be maintained, they will fail. And the way that this building was designed, their drainage plane, the sheathing that is used to control water from getting down the wall and out, down the cavity wall and out of the building is not continuous. We could see areas of breaches in the original design documents. So those were areas we were already focused on with concern.
I have a question.
Yes.
So you're saying that there was a flaw in the original design, or it was in the construction of the original design?
From what we could see in the original drawings, we could see areas of concern that did not show that that continuous plane was continuous, in fact. So as example, in the middle diagram, there is a large cast band, and when it hit structural steel got in the way, we had a breach in the design drawings of where the sheathing stopped. It didn't know how to get around it. So these were some of the areas that we tried to look at in our original scoping and our original investigative demolition. We did work from the outside rather than from the inside at the time to keep the occupants from releasing anything into the air. And so these were some things that we saw that we put in the original bid documents on how to fix. So I'm looking at those just a little bit closer. I have a number of photographs so that you can see. We're going to start on the top left. Some of the issues that are going on with the facility is that at some point in time, someone has come through and sealed all the weeps. And what the weeps do is when I talked about how the water comes down the cavity and it exits out, that is the point where it's supposed to exit out. When it was sealed, we've all of a sudden gotten a position where the water has nowhere to go but back inside to the building. So that's one of the issues that we were addressing in the bid documents. You can see that in the middle upper photograph where the lintels have rusted. These were some things that we're seeing. You can see the kind of the shiny white clear. That is all the sealant that was put on those weeps. So at the top of the windows, we had those issues. There's some roof flashing failures on the metal roof. We were addressing all of that. There are areas of flat or low slope roof where it exits out to the front face of the building, and the materials stop, and anytime you have a gap, you have an opportunity to introduce water. The bottom middle picture is very indicative of that cast cap you see all around your building. In order to anchor that, it was required when it was constructed and in the design documents to anchor that so there's a hole that was then capped. And that cap, the sealant around it has failed, and that cap is starting to pop out. Now water's being able to get in through there and into the wall system. And then we saw some rusting of the second floor deck. This is something that in my 20 years of experience was atypical. I don't normally walk into an existing building and see the second floor deck rusted. So we did have a structural engineer come out and look, and they looked in the spring, and they looked again recently in October. And the good news is structurally the building is sound. Little rust. That's indicative of some of the condensation that we're seeing with thermal issues going on in the building, but the water is still an issue coming into that cavity. So just to give you a little bit about what was in those original bid documents, our scope was we were taking out all of those lintels, all of those rusted lintels we just saw above the window. We were removing all the windows and replacing those. We were resealing all of the cast bands. We were coming in and along all perimeter walls, removing all the drywall on the perimeter only. We were taking out all of the fiberglass insulation that has probably gotten moisture in it. And we were coming back in and we were sealing all of that up, requiring that the contractors did a water test on the outside of the building, make sure no water was coming in, and then we were going to come back and do new finishes, put new insulation in, new flooring. We were redoing the lightning protection, recertifying that. We were dealing with some stair continuity issues where there was some issues going on between an outside stair and the building. We were upgrading some ADA issues with the restrooms in the building. We were doing some landscaping and doing some minor regrading out there. So essentially, we were taking that outside envelope and trying to seal it up as tight as we could. In addition, the county asked that we have the roofs replaced and we repair a washout that was happening at the second floor lobby space. So in all that was about all that we could do without taking it to the next level. So when the additional water infiltration happened in October, we were allowed to come in and do investigations from the interior of the building. And what that did is it provided us with some more results, some more opportunity to look and see what was going on. So as I talked to you at the beginning, we saw in the original design documents where there were breaches in the continuous drainage plane. When we came in and did investigations in October, we found additional breaches that were not in the design documents. I cannot tell you when these occurred. I can't tell you why these occurred. Around pipes, around just issues, we would cut into a wall, and where a continuous drainage plane was supposed to have occurred, it had been cut into at some point. Whether that be from maintenance, whether it be from original construction, I can't be the one to tell you when that happened. I can just tell you we saw enough places in the wall to say we need to stop and rethink this for a moment, because there are additional breaches beyond what was apparent in the design documents. If we can't control how water is getting into the building, this will continue to always be a problem. So the things that we saw, again, I report that structurally everything was fine. We see some rusting. We were cut into the wall. We made sure the bottom of the columns are still sound. We did see rusting at the bottom of them, which indicates, again, that water wasn't able to get out. We've had some water sitting down there. None of that is good, but as of right now, the structure itself is sound. Some additional things that we saw, you see this tile on the right side of the building. of concern downstairs, all of a sudden we're starting to see some cracking occurring lengthwise between some column grids. I don't know the issue as to why that is occurring, but it is something that we did note. And the other thing that we noticed is on the bottom middle picture, the waterproofing work that was completed in 2018, because it was applied to the surface of the exterior walls, it is starting to fail. I don't know if it is just because it's exposed, if when weeds are cut down and a weed whacker comes through, it can pull that right off the building. But the work that you've already done and spent money on is starting to fail. So that drainage plane, you are going to start getting water where you've already sealed things up. These are not good things that you would want to have to maintain over a long period of time because it will be continuous maintenance. So what we were doing was we were coming in and putting in a drainage plane. We were putting in rock to try to keep maintenance workers and grounds workers from having to get close enough to the building, because anytime any weeds would get close, they would end up just cutting that drainage waterproofing that you put on the building at the time. So what our report came through in October basically states is the only way we feel confident that we can get this building in a safe position of trying to control the water is we recommend the brick has to come off the building. And that will allow us to get to that what is supposed to be a continuous drainage plane and put in a continuous drainage plane. Removing the brick from the building is a really big deal. It sounds like a big deal, but it's a really big deal because once that brick comes off, the building's exposed. We were only removing the drywall from the perimeter of the inside walls. Now, the remainder of all of the walls are exposed to the environment when that brick comes off the building. So in this scenario, removing all the brick now also means that all the drywall inside the building needs to come out because it will be exposed to the environment. The mechanical system was put in place and then the walls were built around it. So it's pretty much outlived its age. And once the ductwork is exposed to the environment, to the outside, that is going to be an issue that needs to be replaced. So if the investment that's going to be required to take the brick off the building and to get the building in a sound place, we are recommending that that drywall come off and that the mechanical system also be replaced. And these are significant budget items. So with that, looking at it, that's probably at least a $2 million additional cost. When we received the bids on the original work, it was around one bid was at 4.5 and one was around about $5.2 million. We were asked, what does this mean with our new recommendations on the cost of continuing with remediation? So I want to take a second and just explain what I've written out here. These are just basic projections on costs. This is not, we've not had a contractor come in and price these things. What it does not include is does not include any cost to you for furniture, fixtures, and equipment. It does not include any cost for any additional professional services, geotechnical investigations, land surveys, land purchase, permit fees, permit review fees, advertising, printing, construction, testing, abatement, leases, and the moving costs. All those things, leases and moving costs that you've recently incurred. This is just looking at construction dollars. So the bids, again, at the very top chart were, I took the low bid, the $4,553,364 to do what was in the original bid scope. The new recommendations for removing the brick, the cast stone, the drywall, that's about $1.5 million to budget. Mechanical, our engineer's looking at about $600,000 in mechanical and about $480,000 on the electrical to bring that up. We are removing significant parts of the building. This would be leaving the link facility with basically the slabs and the structure. I've placed a 5% contingency in design just because this hasn't been designed at this level yet. So that would take the construction cost at about $7.49 million, so about $7.5 million. Inflation to about half the construction schedule at 5%, which is where things are running right now, and a 3% owner's contingency, is putting the remediation projected costs above $8 million for the Link building. So I was asked, what would it be if we were to build this new? That's a lot of money, $8 million. So building a new building, I just took 24,000 square feet, $275 a square foot, which is where a facility like this is running nowadays. Demolition of the existing building, and again, pen has not been put to paper, so a 5% contingency just to put you in a position of safeguards puts the construction about $7.1 million. You'll see that the construction subtotal is actually right now running just a little bit less than the remediation. But it's going to take time to design a brand new building. So inflation actually would carry out further than the 5% up above, run into halfway through construction. Inflation at about 15% carries that up. So a total construction cost of about $8.4 million. These are running really close to one another, is basically what we're just trying to say. Don't take these word for word, because obviously we've not designed all of it nor bid it. I think the important thing for you to understand also, sensitivity to the site. When the building was built, a 50-foot stream buffer was not required in 1992. It is required now. You can remediate the building as it is and not have to follow that 50-foot stream buffer. But if the building's torn down, a building of 24,000 square feet would need to be in a different configuration. And just want to make sure that you understand that. The site, as it was mentioned earlier, everything slopes towards the creek. So when the building gets in the way, everything is sloping right at the building. We would want to, in no matter any of these scenarios, regrade that site. It needs a lot of grading to get the water away from it. There's not a lot of room to do that. As far as construction schedules go, leaving the existing building, taking the brick off, and remediating it is going to be tedious work. It's careful work. It's tedious work. It's going to take a little bit longer than what we were anticipating before with the original bid, obviously. New construction probably could be at a little bit faster pace, but it's going to take time to design. So all in all, a new building with design and construction is going to take a little bit longer than it is to remediate. One thing I can say is before we were remediating phases, so we were occupying a floor, remediating a floor, occupying the next floor, remediating a floor. That was taking some time, so we're able to take that a little bit off of the table now that the building's been vacated, but it's something to keep in mind. And at the end of the day, we have learned a lot about buildings since 1992. There have been significant changes in the building code. There have been significant changes, especially dealing with water infiltration and water, the way that water works within buildings, especially as we're seeing with 510 Meadowlands. We're working on that facility right now for the county. It is just moisture in general. A new facility would allow the county to take upon all of those new opportunities of what architects and contractors have learned about how water flows through buildings. Removing the brick from the building would allow us to get to that point as well. So, and at the end of the day, I feel confident that both of these scenarios would provide you with a great facility. I'm just here to be able to answer questions and whatever capacity that you have tonight.
Great, thank you so much. That was very thorough. Let's start with questions, and then we can do comments. Commissioner Markopoulos.
So I remember when that was built back in the early 90s, and I looked at that western wall just soaking in the heat, and it seems to me that a new building would be much more energy efficient, and that's a factor to consider. So this building did not utilize passive solar techniques in its construction. So I think that's a big plus for building a new building. It might be interesting to maybe even quantify some of the energy savings with not an exhaustive study, but might be able to predict what the savings might be, and that could factor into how we understand the economics of building a new building.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Price?
On one page, you said that in the remediation, additional cost of $2 million or more. And in the schedule on page 4, you've got 1.5 million, or does that also include the new mechanical?
Plus the mechanical and plus the electrical, yeah.
Okay, I just want to
yeah.
make sure. And then I guess, well, this is probably for the manager. Building new, which to me seems wise, only because of so many problems with the old building. What about a site and the cost for a site? Because I guess from Boomerang, you're saying that you wouldn't want to design or build on this existing site even if it was demolished.
I wouldn't necessarily say that.
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't
I know you have to refigure the building.
reconfigure the building.
Reconfigure.
Absolutely, reconfigure the site. But I would not put it on the table that the site is not buildable.
No, but I mean your preference in terms of.
So one of the options for you all tonight is to give us some more time on figuring that out as to whether it's on this site or another site. We have the northern campus now. We also are going to have a vacant detention center in downtown Hillsborough. So possibly looking at some other sites would be a good idea for us to think about, and then also look further into this site. I don't think tonight you have to come up with an answer. I think it's time for all of us. We just wanted you to know where we're at. We are all, on Friday, we will all have vacated the Link Center, and we're all in spaces where we can do our jobs. There's no urgency. We're not together like we used to be. The attorney isn't near us. Finance is going to be in a different place, but we can still function. And so I think, what we wanted to share with you tonight is the situation, and then take some time to figure out maybe a long-range plan, because I think what we want to do, well, I know what I want to do. What I want to do is I want to come back to the board with something that lasts longer than 25 years, a long-range plan of something that will be functional and be, there for a long time as a building. So, we wanted you to know where we're at, and we think the timing of this is good because the Link Center will be closed as of Friday, and we want to just have some more time to think about what is the best option.
Mm-hmm. I have one more question. You mentioned water, down at the base, in the structure. How bad is that rusting?
So if you remember that one picture where it was the column, the bottom that was cut out, we noticed water about that high up, some rusting along. So there are times where there's significant water in there, but again, structurally, it wasn't in a position that the building is not sound from a structural standpoint.
Commissioner McKee?
Yes. And I guess I would direct this to the manager. When you bring us more information back, it would be helpful to know, not only how this occurred. It's curious to me that we've got 60-year-old school buildings, we've got some 60-year-old county buildings that I've not heard this problem with, and I'm not exactly sure how this building got in this shape this quickly. I understand it may be a design problem. I understand it may be a maintenance problem that weep-holes and everything else were closed up. I'd also be interested in knowing if there is a way to, re-roof the building in a fashion that would prevent any water. As I'm seeing it, the water intrusion comes from the roof design and the flaws in the roof, the structural issues that you had a picture on. as well as the capstone and some of the other issues with those bands. But I'm not exactly sure that I'm buying into $8 million to redo the building so that it would be structurally safe and also environmentally safe. I'm no engineer, but for me, if it's going to be $8 million to remediate the building, or 8.3, that's a no-brainer. You don't spend $300,000 to a new building to fix a building. So I'd be interested in maybe thinking outside of the box, even if a new roof design had to be put on it. If that's not feasible, it's just not feasible. I had one other question, and in rambling, I have
It'll
lost
come back. It'll come
I have lost my own question.
Yeah, it happens all the
Senior
time.
moment. Sorry about that.
We can bring as much information. I think what we've found and what the architect has indicated is, I think there was a lot of elements happening at the same time. There may have been a design problem. There may have been something done during construction. Also, maintenance of the building may not have been done with best practices. I think we found that when we found the ceiling leaking, and there were just, at times, panels were just switched out, and we weren't looking for the cause of it. We were just doing kind of a superficial approach. So I don't know how much more we can nail that down, but we'll look into that and work with the people who have done the investigations on this.
Commissioner Bedford.
So I think I agree that it's a lot like Chapel Hill High School, where, for a little bit more money, you can build new, and be more sustainable and more energy efficient, and you get your payback period, sooner than later, the break-even points on those additional costs. And also, the Link Center, to me, the interior design is not particularly functional. And you can't change the stairways and the elevator spaces and the bathrooms. So that's something, it lacks good meeting space. That's something a new design could more easily incorporate. I do think it'd be great for our manager and staff to work with the architects and Ames to think about what government functions ideally should be co-located, similar to the ambulances and the fire departments, in that bigger picture. And consider also those historical requirements or limitations that Hillsborough puts on us as far as the options to build downtown versus on the northern campus. I don't know, what we might be able to do better, or depending on what the needs are in a different location, and also then what the opportunity costs are. And I think we should talk with Hillsborough about, in terms of affordable housing, economic development, what should go where, because downtown Hillsborough is thriving in the arts, but could thrive even more as far as in the future is how we use that land. And then a new building would just be so much more ADA compliant. Those bathrooms are not by any stretch ADA. You can't make them ADA compliant unless you do a full gut. And so, with the bigger picture being that we are here to serve the people of Orange County. And so putting that, and then our employees, and then how would that all mesh together? And I would like, when you look at it, to also consider not just energy efficiency, but solar, and whether that is worth the investment as well. And I think we are financially, of course, we know we're at our debt capacity through 2021, 22. And with the package today, we as we do, I'm not sure what's public, so I better be careful what I say, as we have more projects, and perhaps in Chapel Hill and with the library costs, and at 15% escalation, that, other projects may have to be deferred, and so that's something we have to weigh, but I don't see throwing good money after bad. And the site, it just doesn't, I know you're saying it's buildable, but it just is a crappy site, in my opinion. And I'm a layman, I have no idea. And I have a 1968 house, so I know what it's like. Every time you turn around, you're fixing something that the code would never allow nowadays.
Right.
You know, footers.
Commissioner Green?
I'd just like to second everything James Ed has said by saying, fool us once, shame on you. Fool us twice, shame on us. I'm just looking at the map with the, with the buffer and how that's just not a good site for what we want to do.
Commissioner
Yes.
did it come back?
James Zetta's comment about opportunity costs rebooted the processors, and so I remember my question. I would also like when they bring the information back, because of the fact that I don't think we've got $8 million laying around somewhere in a safe or a shoebox. I would like to know, what we may have to remove from capital projects in order to do this. Because I'm not really seeing this as a project that we can put out on a 5-year or a 10-year schedule, other than leaving it sitting there vacant. And that, for me, that's not an option either. So I think that it would be, at least for my benefit, to know how are we going to have to shuffle these capital projects around, what's going to have to be delayed, what's going to have to be not built.
Commissioner Markopoulos?
So I think we should also consider the Board of Elections building in this process. It's in the same, not quite, but it's in pretty much the same moisture-laden environment. And I know that the walls are just cinder block walls with no insulation inside the walls. I've been in there in the wintertime. It's uncomfortable to work in there. And it might be worth figuring out a way to incorporate that into the new building as well and take care of that issue. I know it's a hard place to work for folks. And energy inefficient, to the max.
Okay, so I think those discussions are happening. I think the Board of Elections building we've been talking about that building for a long time, even longer than the link. So I think that's a great idea to move that, or consider moving that building as well. It's disappointing. The building was built in 1992, and Bonnie, it's unfortunate that you inherited this building and you inherited this headache, but just by listening to the design and the flaws in the design, it seems to me that someone missed the boat back then, and it's not only is it a bad design, but it just kept on compounding the problems, and it almost seems like this was bound to happen. I kind of agree with most of the folks here that I think that after a good analysis that it would. We should look at possibly building new and looking at the options for, everything that we know that we want in the future, to make this building more energy efficient, to use the passive solar, everything that we see some of our schools using. So I guess, Ms. Manager, are you just looking for us to receive this report tonight, and then you'll give us a timeline of updates, or what was?
Yeah, what we're doing, yeah,
I mean,
go ahead.
If we're ready. So just to clear up one thing, you've seen we've done some extensive research on what the root cause is, and the roof is not the primary problem. It's the bill. We could bring that roof, I don't know, just cloak the whole building in roof, and it still wouldn't correct the interior or exterior wall problem that's there. So I just wanted to clarify that. So just in terms of what we can talk about, I think I'm gauging some interest in, we've laid out a couple options, but one is to sort of engage in this overall facility planning project. We know that we'll have 2 county-owned sites that will be available in the not too distant future, and so we could do that facility planning process in the context of those sites being available. In that case, the only thing that we would ask the board in the meantime would be to consider a budget amendment, in the next month or so, that we'll get a rough cost of what that facility planning effort might be, and bring that back. It won't be $8 million. In the meantime, as Bonnie mentioned, all of the occupants will be out, but at the same time, I have to say that, that means the building is just going to be vacant for some period of time. We've told the staff, and we've set expectations that this is going to be years, not months. And we've negotiated the leases, and we've envisioned sort of what's going to happen at the Whitted facility as being more of a long-term solution than a short-term solution, or at least intermediate.
Travis, how many people that are at the Link building currently that are moving?
So about 30.
Okay.
But, we're all landing somewhere. It's not like anybody.
There's space for, I was thinking there were many more people there, so 30, yeah.
There are 30 that are left.
Because you've moved some staff
Because the
out
public
already,
defender
right.
and the county attorney have already, and HR have already vacated the
Right.
building. So double that, so that would be about 60 people in total.
Yeah, I hate to see them lose that downtown access, because then, people walk and have lunch and spend money downtown. So that's another, sort of aspect of having a facility to support our local businesses.
Yeah, we tried to find lease space downtown. It's not,
It's
of
not
that
easy.
size, it isn't available.
Commissioner Price?
So I don't expect you to have an answer for this now, but at some point, how long that building will stand there vacant, and what will be the final disposition of that site and the building? Because I can just imagine, I would not want to have to live across the street from a building that's, basically boarded up and known to be full of toxins and everything else.
So, we'll do maintenance to the extent, we're not going to board up the building. It'll continue to present. But at the same time, I think, depending on, we'll get a timeline for what this facility planning effort might entail, but, that's probably a year-long process.
I think it'd be good to know. I'm sure that folks in Hillsborough would like to know.
Sure,
At
of
some
course.
point.
Yep, absolutely. Okay.
So you don't need
Thank
anything
you.
from us tonight?
As long as everyone is comfortable with the approach I described, that's what hearing no objections.
It seems that way.
We
yeah.
don't need a formal vote at this point.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. We have no reports tonight, and does anyone have anything to remove from the consent agenda? And so I was asked by a resident if I could list the consent agenda while I'm up here, and when we go from like A to Z, could take a lot of time, but I could just tell you what we have on there tonight. We have the minutes, we have the fiscal year 2019-2020 budget amendments, joint driveway easement 306 Revere Road, where we have a change in the BOCC meeting schedule, and we're authorizing the manager to execute a contract for the purchase of a new ambulance and ambulance remount. And if we have no one pulling anything, could we get a motion to pass the consent?
Second.
Moved in second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? We're good. Okay, Ms. Manager, what you got?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The only thing that I was going to bring up tonight, and Commissioner Markopoulos mentioned it as well, is under the information items, we do have the intergovernmental collaboration minutes with the municipal partners. All of the Maggie, what's Maggie's last name?
Code.
She did the minutes for us. She's a facilitator, and she shared them with the towns as well. And I think the towns are going to do something similar to what we're doing and having them on the record. So these are on the record, but we will also make an effort to put them, make them more visible so that our residents can see that this is the way we're currently doing this. This is a pilot. We will be doing it one more time in the spring, and then we'll come back to the board and ask the board whether this felt like it worked well for everyone. So that is all I have to report tonight, and that concludes my report.
And I have a question, Bonnie. The minutes are very thorough, and they follow what we spoke about. And then the draft came to all the folks that were in the room during the meeting to make corrections. I sent Travis an email on page 32 of the minutes with Chapel Hill. The first paragraph where the mayor is explaining the structure of our transit and voting structure, that's incorrect. That is not how our structure works. And so how do we handle something that is not currently correct in the minutes?
So I would think that the way to address that would be to let Maggie know that, and then she could make some notation. I don't know that she would change it if that's what the mayor said, but make a notation that there was concern raised by another elected official.
Okay, because I didn't realize it until I started reading them, and the last time I read it, this time, I'm like, and I don't want it to be out there as this is the way we do it. We don't do it this way.
Yeah, so I can contact Maggie and let her know.
Yeah, just a follow-up.
Okay.
Yeah, but you're
Good.
right. I don't think we should change what the
Someone
mayor
said.
say in the
Right.
meeting. I think
Right.
that's not what minutes are for.
And we want a record of even mistaken statements.
Right, this is something, though, that I think is really important as our transportation
Yep.
steering committee starts. I think we need to all be on the same, page as we're starting. This is not right.
But I think that more than asking Maggie to look into it, if this is going to be put online, then there should be like an addendum or something, or an asterisk
Or,
to, look down.
Asterisk editor's
There's
note at the bottom or something like
that there's differences of opinion on it or something.
Okay, well, I sent.
You're talking
yeah.
about a fact difference, so if it's a fact.
This is not factual.
Editor's note, the actual fact is X.
Right.
Yeah.
So Travis, maybe you and I can work on that, because I already had sent Travis an email on that. So just for your reference, folks, it's page 32, and it's the top paragraph. Okay.
James?
Yeah.
Oh, and I emailed, but it would also be nice for, I don't know every planner across Orange County and Mebane, where it says who attended, if it said, county commissioner, what their roles are or their jobs.
Yeah, we can have that
Really
taken care
helpful.
of.
That's great. Thank you, Bonnie.
Yep.
John?
Nothing tonight.
Okay. And we have no appointments. And that means we have no closed session, and I need motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. All's in favor?
Aye.
All right, good night, everyone.